Hello darlings, it's nice to see you all again, and thanks for joining me for today's video. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you today about the difference between full-time van life and part-time van life, because since I have been living in my van, I have noticed that full-time van life is a lot more harder and more exhausting than part-time van life. Isn't that right, Bubby? Say hello to Kelly. Where is she? There she is. Say hello, Bubby. Hello. She wants to go outside, but she can't. Come up here with Mummy. Come on. Come on. Good girl. Come up here with Mummy. Oh, gosh, she's so heavy. Say hello, everyone. Hello. It's good to see you all again. There you go. You look out the window and watch the birdies. There she goes. She's looking out the window to watch the birdies. She loves bird watching. So let me show you where we are. We're parked up just on a residential street. And move that mirror out the way, and that's what it looks like from this angle. And Kelly's back on the floor again. Okay, so at the moment, I love you too. Come up here. Oops. Mummy bumped the table. Sorry. Come up here with Mummy. So at the moment, we're just parked on a residential street in one of the suburbs of northeastern Melbourne at the moment. Yes, we're back in Melbourne. And I'll explain what happened about last week in a minute, but first I want to talk to you about the difference between full-time and part-time van life. So I've noticed that full-time van life is a lot harder and more exhausting, as well as more frustrating than part-time van life. But it's still enjoyable, and in time, I know I will get used to it in time. It's just taken me a little bit of time to get used to it, but I suppose that's normal. Isn't that right, Bubby? Yeah, that's right. Hello, everyone. Say hello. I got a fur on my face now. So, and not only that, I also realise now that I still need to make the van a lot more comfortable. Because, especially when it's hot, because even though I have some fans, a few USB, mini air conditioners, and a couple of cooling mats, when it's really, really hot, they help a lot. They make it a lot more comfortable in the van. But when it's really hot, you can still feel the heat, even with all the USB mini air conditioners and fans going. So I'm going to have to get the air conditioner in my van fixed, as well as get a good air conditioner for in the back. So I was thinking about getting an Easy Breeze or something like that. I don't know. So I'm going to have to do some research into that. So if you know of a good air conditioner that I could have in the back here, please let me know in the comments section. Okay, so apart from that, I've also noticed that the air gets quite stuffy in here quite quickly. And so therefore, let me show you, I'm going to need to get a sliding window put in this side door here. because at the moment the only way I can let fresh air into the van is via the windows in the cab. Now, because my van is a 2005 Kia Pagero van, that means I only have electronic windows in my van. So therefore, I can't manually unwind the windows in my van. So therefore, if the windows in my van were to stop working, I can't open and close my window, which has happened once before. But I have had that fixed since then, which is good. And oh my God, it was such a hassle because I couldn't go through any drive-thrus like McDonald's and that. I couldn't open and close the window when I wanted to, and it was such a hassle. But thank God I've had that fixed since then. And so the other day I was in the back here and I had the windows down just ajar to let some fresh air in, and it has started to rain. So I had to get out of the side door here and I had to go around to the driver's side, put in the key in the ignition, just to close the window so the rain wouldn't get into my van, and then hop back in the back here. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if I had a sliding window, I wouldn't have to worry about that, because I can just open up the window on the sliding door here whenever I need to. So when I get that sliding window in the door done, then I think that's going to be a game changer for full-time van life. And that also reminds me that I do need to get some rain guards installed on my van, so I can have the windows down ajar when it's raining and I don't have to worry about the rain coming into my van. And another thing is because I need to get a high top roof installed in my van. Hello, pretty girl. Come cuddle, Mama. And because I would like to be able to stand up properly in my van, but at the moment I can't. I mean, I can stand up in my van, but I have to bend over because I don't have a high top roof. So I think getting the air conditioner fixed in my van, as well as getting a good air conditioner for the back here, like an Easy Breeze or something, as well as Callie's. Sorry, Callie's gone underneath the bed and she has bumped the table. Oh, poor girl. She saw someone walking past their pet dog. And Callie doesn't like dogs, so she's gone underneath the bed. Oh, well, she's okay. And so I think getting the air conditioner fixed, as well as getting the getting like an Easy Breeze or some other kind of air conditioner for the back, as well as getting a sliding window installed in my van, as well as getting a high top roof installed in my van. I think they will all be game changers, because at the moment, because I can't stand up properly in my van, it's not good for my back. And I already have a bad back from the time when my ex-husband pushed the wall unit on top of me, leaving me for dead for about an hour or so. Because what happened that day is he pushed this heavy wall unit on top of me while I was sitting down on the floor, cleaning the lounge room table. And then he just stood over the top of me saying, "Die, bitch, die." You know, really screaming and yelling, before he walked out of the room for about an hour or so. And how I know that is because I was watching the clock on the wall. And I don't know where he went, but I assumed he went into the bedroom to watch the TV in there. And then he came back into the lounge room And he's standing over the top of me for another 20 odd minutes or so yelling, "Die, bitch, die," before he moved the wall unit off from me again. And even though what happened is that I couldn't breathe because the wall unit was so heavy, and as time went by the wall unit was getting heavier and heavier, and my breathing was becoming shallower and shallower, and I knew something was wrong because I could feel the excruciating pain in my back. And then after he had moved the wall unit off from my back, he's just acting like as if nothing happened. No apologies, no nothing, which was typical. And ever since then, I've had a bad back. So therefore, now I'm being in my van with not being able to stand up properly is not helping my back either. So I think getting the high top roof installed is going to be a game changer for my back. So I realise now I still need to make the van a lot more comfortable for me and Callie. Because especially if you want to do full-time van life, you need to have your van or your vehicle, whatever type of vehicle you have, as comfortable as possible. So therefore, you're going to need to make the changes that you need to make your vehicle more comfortable. And the thing is, because I don't have the money to do that at the moment, so therefore I'm going to have to wait until I receive my inheritance, which I don't know when that will be, but I do know it will be sometime in the near future. So I'm going to have to wait until I receive my inheritance to be able to fix everything on the van, as well as make the changes that I need for the van, like the window, the sliding window, the air conditioners, and the high top roof, and whatever else that I need to make on the van. So therefore, in the meantime, I'm just going to have to make the best of it, aren't I? And I will be honest with you, it has taken me a little while to get used to full-time van life, but I'm sure I will get there. I'm sure I will get used to it, and I'm sure that I will find a rhythm sooner or later. But not only that, because there's not much space in my van, so therefore I can't have a lot of things in my van. Like, for example, at the moment, because I'm living in my van, I can't, stock up on a lot of groceries and buy bulk groceries at the moment. So what I'm doing is I'm just, buying enough food that will last me for a few days, usually a week, and then I have to restock up. And I'm still eating like cereals for breakfast, but instead of having normal milk, now I've gone to powdered milk because that's easier for van life. I know long life milk is also good for van life too. For lunch, I'm still having like salad, wholemeal wraps like I've always had. And because my fridge isn't working at the moment, that's another thing that I will get fixed in time. And if it's cheaper to buy a new one than to get it fixed, then I will do that. But at the moment, I've just turned my fridge into a cooler. And so in my cooler, that's where I keep, water cold. That's where I keep the lettuce, some fresh fruit, etc. Things that I need to make a salad. So I'm still having, wholemeal salads for lunch. And for tea, I'm just having like tin food. So what I'm doing at the moment is that if I need to make toast, I just use my frying pan to make toast, and then I just heat up a tin of tin food like a casserole or an Irish stew that I buy in the tins from Aldi's. I just heat them up, and that's what I've been doing for dinner. Because usually for dinner, when I was in my apartment, I usually like have a bowl of soup, vegetable and chicken soup, and a couple of chicken schnitzels. But now that I'm in the van, I can't do that. I don't have the room to store them. I don't have a proper fridge to store them properly. So I had to change a few things with my menu plan to suit me well in the van. But that's okay. I mean, I don't mind it. They're still healthy. They're still affordable and they're cheap. And another thing that I've noticed is that being in the van is a lot better than when I was living in my car. So what happened was that Kelly and I, we first moved into the car back in 2017, and we lived in the car for 2 years and 1 month exactly. Because what happened at that point of time, is that I couldn't stay at my parents' place anymore because my older brother who lives there, he wouldn't stop sexually harassing me. And the day when I caught him stealing my underwear off the clothesline, I knew I had to get out of there. And I mean, I couldn't afford to rent an apartment. I mean, the only affordable housing that we have here in Australia, I don't know about other countries, but here in Australia, the only affordable housing you have available is the government housing. And you have to be eligible to apply for that. So I applied for priority government housing, which I was approved. But even once you've been approved for government housing, you still have to, even if you're on priority, you still have to wait until an apartment becomes available. And even if you're on priority, you could still be waiting years before an apartment becomes available. And I waited 2 years and 1 month exactly before my apartment became available. And my apartment is just a 1-bedroom apartment. It's an old apartment. I don't care because it's mine. And it's also my forever home, just like my van is. But the thing is, what do you do in the meantime? Well, you're waiting for an apartment to become available. So therefore, what happened is the only option I had was to move into my car. So that's what we did. So therefore, the original reason why I started van life was because I needed somewhere to live, and I couldn't afford to rent an apartment on the income that I had at that time, being on my own. And I couldn't stay at my parents' place, like I said. And it's important that, you're in a place where you feel safe and are safe too. So therefore, the only safe place I had available was my car. I mean, at least it was a roof over my head. I mean, I didn't have a toilet in my car, so every time I needed to go to the toilet, I had to find a public bathroom somewhere. And that meant getting out of my car just to go to the toilet, even when it was raining, dark, whatever. But Callie and I, we managed to get by. I mean, at least it was better than being in a domestic violence relationship, I will admit that. At least I was safe there, I had my own little space. Whereas now, being in the van, let me turn the phone around and show you. Like, whereas now I've got my own little bed, my own little bedroom. I've got my sink, vanity, fridge, Over here I've got my little knick-knack shelf. And down here is my Bedford porta potty toilet. And speaking of the toilet, that means, because I'm now doing van life, that means that, every now and then I have to empty and clean the toilet, which, I'll be honest, is not my favourite chore. And however, I have noticed that when I wear disposable gloves and face mask, it does help that chore a lot more bearable. And not only that, move this up here. Where are we? So over here is my, over here is my water container, my fresh water container. So every now and then I've got to refill up that fresh water container. And I've got other water containers underneath the bed, so I can refill that up. And I also have to empty the grey water tank from in the vanity as well. I've got to do that regularly too. So these are all the things that I have to do on a regular basis so that I can keep living in my van, like empty and clean the toilet and empty and refill the grey water tanks and the fresh water tanks and so on. But at least being in the van is a lot better than when I was being in my car. At least I have more room. I've got a bed, whereas when I was living in my car, I was just sitting and sleeping in the driver's seat. Because I had to keep the stuff in the van, in the car too. But somehow we made it work. And somehow I know I will make this van life work too. But I still need to make the van more comfortable, so I can't wait until I receive my inheritance so I can get things fixed on the van, like getting the sliding window on the side door here fixed. As you can see, that's where I'll give you another look where we are. There's someone walking their little puppy. And that's what it looks like from the front angle. Yeah, so we're just, so at the moment, we're just out camping on a residential street here. And I was up in Ichika last week when I went to visit my family up there. They own a caravan park up there, so I went to visit them. And it was good to see them again. The last time I saw them was at my mum's funeral, about last month, sometime last month that was. So it was good to see them again on a happy occasion. And I had dinner out with my aunt and my uncle in their caravan, which was nice. And my aunt, she made curry, sausages. And so anyway, I woke up the next morning, which was the second day of full-time van life, and I made a couple of videos. I made one about the second day of van life, which I called it, and I made another little video of Kaia being in the van. And then, because I was tired, I felt a little bit dizzy at that point of time, but I thought that was because I was tired. So then I went back to bed for an hour and a half or so, and then I had to get up because I wasn't feeling well, and I had diarrhea, and I was feeling like nauseous, and I don't know why. Maybe it was because the curry sausages that my aunt made, maybe they didn't agree with me. I don't know. Or maybe it had something to do, because I'm anemic, maybe it had something to do with me being anemic. And maybe I did too much. I don't know. So we ended up driving back from Echuca that day because I wasn't feeling well. And as soon as we got back into Melbourne, I just found a residential street like this, where we stealth camped. And because I needed to rest, I couldn't drive. I just wasn't feeling well, so I hopped in the back and we stayed in the back. And so we managed to make it work. So Kaia and I, we ended up stealth camping in the van for about 3 days after we came back. But I still wasn't feeling well. You know that feeling, getting your tummy, waking through your tummy, going around in circles, and you feel like you want to vomit, but you don't know when. And that's how I felt. And I thought, well, I might as well go back home, because if I'm not going to feel well, I'm better off being at least back at home than being in the van. So Kaia and I, we ended up going back home for a few more days. So we went back home for about 4 days after that. And now Kaia and I are back in the van again now that I'm feeling better. So this is why I still need to keep my apartment, because there will be times when I will still need to go back home, whether it's because I'm not feeling well or whatever, or if my van breaks down, I've got somewhere to go back to. So therefore, I need my apartment just as much as I need my van, and vice versa. Because if you're doing full-time van life, you still need to have a permanent residence, whether you're renting an apartment or whether your permanent residence is going to be at a friend's house or whatever. You still need somewhere, some permanent base where you can go back to, especially at times of need. So I thought, well, that wasn't a really good way to start off full-time van life, not feeling well. And I still don't know why I wasn't feeling well for the first week of van life. Maybe it was a combination of both. Maybe it was the combination of the meal that my aunt made didn't agree with me, plus I did things the day before, because I'm anemic, and I know that I have to eat well. I have to eat like about 2 cups of vegetables for lunch, as well as 2 cups of vegetables for dinner, on top of my normal menu plan, just to give me the energy that I need. But I also know that I can't overdo things at the same time, because if I do, that's when I start to feel unwell again. So maybe it was a combination of both. So I was thinking about that, and then I thought, well, if I'm going to be driving, quite a fair way to visit our country town, like it took me 3 hours to get from Melbourne up to Echuca, then maybe I'm going to have to stop off at another country town halfway towards my destination, and have a rest there. So in other words, I'm going to have to do things slower and have shorter trips. But that's okay, I can do that. Because the thing is, I have to stay, most of my time, I have to stay around in the Melbourne area because I need to see my doctor regularly. And however, I'm still going to go to visit a lot of different country towns around Victoria when I can. And that all I need to do is plan properly and have a schedule that suits me. And I realize now that I need to take my time. I can't rush because rushing is no good for me. It's just going to make me feel worse, So I'm going to have to take my time and have shorter trips. But that's okay because that means I can visit and check out, different places that I would have probably missed because instead of driving instead of going from here in Melbourne straight up to Echuca, next time I go up there to visit my family, I'll stop off at a few country towns on the way, like Kilmore. And and I can have a look at those little country towns and have a rest in between and see how see how I go that way. So yeah, so that's how my first week off in life has started. But Kelly and I, we are back in the van again. We are back south camping in the van in the Melbourne area. And then after I see my doctor next time, then I've got plenty of time to look to see which towns I want to go visit next. I was thinking about driving out to Moonda, Bandura, South Morang, around that area. So I also want to go back to visit Diamond Creek and Altham, Greensboro. So we will be visiting those areas soon too. It's been a couple of years since I've been out there, and they're really nice towns to visit. And they've got a lot of places where you can stealth camp. I know where to stealth camp in those areas because I've done it before. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to that. But if you're doing van life, whether it's part-time, full-time, weekender, whatever, you need to make sure that your vehicle is quite comfortable. So, if it's really hot, you need to be able to stay cool in your vehicle. And when it's cold, you need to be able to stay warm. Like when it's cold in my van, it's not so bad. Because I have lots of blankets and a sleeping bag on top of my doonas. I layer my bedding and clothing. I have a hot water bottle, but most of the time I prefer to use my USB hand warmers instead of the hot water bottle. I also have a Mr. Batty heater, but but most of the time I prefer to use my 12-volt car heater. And so when it's cold in my van, it's actually more comfortable than when it's actually hot in my van, if that makes sense. And I say, hello, pretty. Look who's come out from underneath the bed. Let's give her a look. Hello, pretty. Hello. Hello, pretty. Yeah, so I'll give you another look where we are at the moment. We've got a house here, another house there and down there. There's Kelly. Hello, pretty. And this is what it looks like from this way. I'll just put you down there for a minute. So I just wanted to make a quick video talking to you about the difference between full-time van life and part-time van life. I mean, the thing is with part-time van life, it's okay, but you don't have to worry about being in the van full-time all the time. That's the thing. Mummy loves you too. Come on. Come up here, puppy. Come on. You know, whereas when you're full-time in the van, you know, there's no, in other words, there's no taking a break. You see what I mean? Once you're in the van full-time, whether it's because that's your permanent home, you know, or whatever reason you've decided to do van life, you know, you can't take a break. You know, I mean, you can go outside of the van to get some fresh air and that, but you still, come up here, puppy, come on, puppy, you know, but you're still stuck in the van, and this is why, if you make your van as comfortable as possible, it's going to be more enjoyable. Sorry, Kelly bumped the table. She gave me a headbutt. Kelly's here. Come up here with Mummy. No, you're not going outside. There she is. There she is. You want to go over there, do you? Oh, all right. You go over there. There she is. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching my video. But yeah, so what I've learned this week is that I need to make the van more comfortable. I need to put a sliding window in the door, in the sliding door. I need to get a high top roof installed. I need to get my air conditioner in the van fixed. I need to get a good air conditioner for in the back here. I need to make up, yeah. Come up here now. You know, I still need to figure out a routine or a rhythm, but I will get there. But that was hard to figure out this week because I wasn't feeling well and I just spent most of my time in bed. Even when we were south camping, when we first came back from Uchica and we spent the first 3 days in the van, I was still spent most of my time in bed there because I wasn't feeling well. So then we went back home for a few days and now we're back in the van again, now that I'm feeling better. But like I said, I still don't know why I wasn't feeling well. Whether it's because I'm anemic or it's got something to do with that, I don't know. Or whether because it had to do with the meal that my aunt cooked and didn't agree with me, I don't know. Or maybe it was both, I don't know. But whatever the reason is, even though I don't know, I'm just glad that I'm feeling better now, and that Callie and I are back stealth camping in the van. And the reason why that we are stealth camping in the van is because I prefer to stealth camp because, well, it's free, it's cheaper. And this is what I'm saying, that if you want to do van life full time, I suggest you stealth camp most of the time, if you can. Because it's a great way to save money. Because many people here in Australia, as well as around the world too, are turning to van life as an affordable alternative lifestyle because there's hardly any affordable accommodation available. And, and because the cost of living keeps going up. I love you too, baby. Yes, you're a good girl. But wages don't. And I mean, the prices of to rent an apartment, even in a cheap area, oh my God, it's absolutely ridiculous. The prices are so expensive. I know of a few people who are renting in the Melbourne area, and they have to go to food banks, just so they can live because they can't afford to go buy groceries because after they pay their rent and their bills, they're left with hardly anything. It's so hard to survive. And you have to make sacrifices, and it's just so wrong. I don't understand why the governments aren't doing much to help the situation. What they're doing is actually too little, too late. And therefore, you have to do whatever you can to survive. So, instead of spending that money on rent, and pay off someone else's mortgage, get a van, move into your van, and save that money. At least at the end of the day, you've still got something to show for your money because you've got a van, which is an asset. But when you're renting and you come to the end of your lease and you have to move somewhere else, you've got nothing to show for your money. Nothing. You've got nothing. And all that you've done is just pay someone else's mortgage. And I think it's just wrong. It really is. So I can understand and see why so many people are turning to van life. That was the original reason why I moved into my van in the first place, was because I couldn't afford to rent an apartment by myself. But then, eventually, the Family Violence Services got me a government apartment. And that's why I've got cheap rent. So I moved into my apartment. But then I noticed that I still wasn't happy in my apartment. I still didn't feel safe, even though I was now in a safe place. And that's because I'm a recovering domestic violence victim survivor. And it has anxiety, depression, PTSD, including nightmares. And then in 2021, I had a car accident. That's when I got my van. And I know noticed every time I was in my van, I felt happy and safe. And that's when I thought, I need to move into my van. I need to spend more time in my van than what I do in my apartment. So, therefore, the original reason why I started van life was because I needed somewhere to live, because I couldn't afford somewhere. But then when I did get a place to live, I noticed that even though I was now in a safe place, I still didn't feel safe. And the reason why that is because the domestic violence happened in an apartment. Even though it was a different apartment, it was still an apartment, which is still the same type of environment. Whereas the domestic violence didn't occur in a van. And therefore, I think that's why I feel happy and safe being in my van. So now, I'm doing van life because that's where I feel safe and happy. And if anything ever did happen to my apartment, say for example my landlord decides to sell or something, then I have to move into my van full time anyway, because there's no other affordable housing where I could go to. So therefore, I thought, well, I might as well move into my van, because I feel safe here. I'm happy here. I feel comfortable. So that's why I'm doing full-time van life now, and I've been getting my van ready over the past 2 years, doing the conversion myself here and there. And I just can't believe I'm finally doing full-time van life now, which is good. I feel so much happier. I always feel safe, but I still have the nightmares. And I wasn't sure if being in my van full-time would stop the nightmares. And now I realize that it hasn't. Well, I wasn't expecting it to happen, to be honest, but I was hoping that it would. So what I was thinking about was doing hypnotherapy sometime in the near future. And maybe that will help stop the nightmares, but I don't know yet. I don't know until I try it. But I have to wait until I can get the money for that, because it's going to cost me a small fortune. But that's okay, because I can wait until then. Yeah, so me and Kelly, we're just going to continue stealth camping in the van and see how that goes. And she settled into van life quite well, which is good. I thought it was going to be like last time when we lived in our car, because when we first moved into our car, it took her a little while to get used to being in the car. But when she got used to being in the car, she loved it. And she enjoyed going for drives in the car. And I thought, well, because of that, the same thing would have happened this time. But she settled in quite well, quite quickly, which was good. And maybe that was because we have been doing van life part-time in this van. Maybe that's why Kelly has settled into van life quite well. Okay, so I'll give you one last look where we are right now. And you can see that's what it looks like from the cab. And this is what it looks like from this side. So yeah, so what's the time? Okay, this has been going on for 50 minutes, so I'm going to have to end it because I don't want this video to go on too long. But not only that, I also have an appointment with the hairdresser. I've got to get my hair done this afternoon too. So I'm going to end this video now, and then I'm going to head off and get my hair done at the hairdresser's. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so thanks for joining me for today's video. I really appreciate you joining me. And please subscribe to my channel to support me and Kelly. And don't forget to give my videos a thumbs up. And I will see you guys in the next video. So until then, please take care and of course drive safely. Bye bye, darlings.